Hello and welcome back to the UiPath Production Ready Essentials training. Our previous tutorial detailed the usage of selectors with wildcards. Today, we'll move on to dynamic selectors. We'll understand when dynamic selectors are needed and we'll learn how we can create them in UiPath Studio. Let's begin. We'll build a workflow that collects data from an Excel file and enters it in the AnyTeller application. In each case, the robot must select one of the three radio buttons, depending on the value in the Use Cache Count column. We'll go ahead and create a new sequence called AnyTeller. Before adding any activity, let's leave an annotation that describes our workflow. The first part of the process consists of reading the information in the Excel file. We need a read range activity, so let's search for it in the Activities panel. We'll browse for the file and clear the range field to retrieve the entire sheet. Let's store the collected data in a variable called input data. Next, the information should be entered in the AnyTeller application, so we'll use an attach window activity. Let's indicate the window and rename the activity to attach window AnyTeller. Now, since we want a series of operations to be repeated for each processed row, our next step is to add a for each row activity. The data type is row, and the variable that contains the items is input data. Now, to be able to select one of the three radio buttons, first we have to enable the Use Cache Count option. We'll drag and drop a check activity to the Designer panel and indicate the checkbox. Let's also rename the activity. Moving on, we need to select the radio button that has the value indicated in the spreadsheet. We'll create a new variable called Count option and set its value using an assign activity. In the To field, we must type an expression that extracts the value in the Excel column and turns it into a string. So, the rows we'll extract are in the Use Cache Count column, and the extracted data should be converted to string. We'll use another check activity and indicate one of the items in the Use Cache Count section, say Use Amount. Now, let's take a look at the selector and adjust some attributes to make sure that any of the three radio buttons can be checked. This is what the selector looks like in the editor window, but we'll open it in UI Explorer. The first three nodes contain attributes whose values change every time a different radio button is selected. So, let's go ahead and uncheck them to widen the scope of our selector. It is valid, so we can close this window. Now the name attribute indicates a specific radio button. To fix that, we can use the count option variable, which holds the values of all the radio buttons. To use the variable, we can simply choose the attribute and hit Ctrl+S. We'll select the variable and click OK. Now that we've set the attribute value to a variable, our selector is dynamic. As a result, it can uniquely identify a UI element at runtime according to the value of the variable. Let's rename the activity, as always. The next actions that should be performed are typing into the three fields and then clicking OK. We'll add the activities to the Designer panel. The first one is for the Cache In field, so let's indicate it. Let's not forget to rename the activity. The value can be found in the rows of the Cache In column in Excel. We'll use the toString method to convert the extracted values. And let's repeat the steps in the second Type Into activity. We'll indicate the OnUsCheck field, rename the activity, and type the expression in the value field. It is almost identical to the first one, as only the column name is different. Let's also set up the third activity. It should type in the NotOnUsCheck field, which we'll indicate now. Next, let's change the activity name and type the expression. We've arrived to the final activity, which is a click. all we need to do is indicate the Accept button. And we'll change the name of the activity to Click Accept, and we can save the workflow. Before running the workflow, let's deselect every checkbox and make sure that the Excel file is closed. OK, we can click Run. The values in the 3 fields and the selected checkbox are changing. And it's done! In this tutorial, we created a selector that contains a variable, namely this one, which stored a value extracted from an Excel file and enabled the selection of the corresponding checkbox. In the next video, we'll go over an example of fine-tuning selectors in web automation. See you soon!